Hello, I'm Courtney. I create all of the designs and embroideries at Dearest Q, and today I'm going to show you how to back your embroidery with felt. So the materials I have with me right now, I have my finished embroidery, which I've washed and prepared to go in the hoop. I have a piece of felt, my embroidery scissors, a large-eyed needle, and a marker. I also have the hoop that I'm going to frame with, and I have my jar of spare threads, which I use to affix the felt onto the back of all of my hoops. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take my embroidery hoop, place it on my felt, and I'm going to trace the inside. I like to get as close to the corner of the felt as I can, because these areas up here I can reuse for other projects, other smaller hoops. So I'm going to trace the inside of the inner hoop. Seems to be moving around a bit. You want to hold your hoop down tight so the felt doesn't move around. Okay, some of these lines are a little faint, but I'm just gonna fake it. I also have my larger scissors here. So I'm just going to cut out, I'm cutting inside the line that I made because I don't want any of that ink. And I've also noticed that felt stretches quite a bit, so I don't want it to be too big because then it'll kind of crimp when I'm fixing it to the back of my hoop. The reason why I put felt as the backing for my hoop is because I find that it holds my embroideries in place really tightly, and it also gives it a more professional finish on the back. Okay, so here we have our piece of felt. I'm gonna give it like some light tugs here just to get the stretching out of the way in the beginning, because it's going to stretch anyway, so I might as well have control over that stretch. So the next thing, I'm just gonna set this aside. The next thing I'm going to do is take my finished embroidery. It's a little wrinkly, but that's okay because we're gonna stretch it. Place it over the inner hoop. Place my outer hoop over top, and you don't really have to worry about this being exactly how you want it, because here we go, we're going to be stretching it in the hoop. We want to make sure that we're centering it. We're not really worrying about where the top is, because we can adjust that after once we get our piece tightly in our hoop. So I'm just stretching the fabric tightly, making sure that the piece is centered how I want it. Pulling with even tension all the way around. You want to make sure that you're not warping your fabric at all. So with this denim, you can see that the denim is going up and down. Our image isn't warped. It's pretty tight in here, so I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. As tight as I can get it, and then I'm going to pull all the way around again just to make sure that I have it as tight as I can get it, because there's nothing worse than having loose, wrinkly fabric. Okay, so I think this looks great. I'm not worrying about this at the top here. I'm gonna move that after. I just wanna make sure that my image is centered how I want it in my hoop. So we're gonna flip it over and grab any spare threads. I like to keep my spare threads in a jar so that I can use them just for this purpose. And I'm just gonna find a piece that is long enough for this purpose. Let's see here. Here we go. So this piece, you just wanna see if that'll go all the way around, and I think this will do it. So I'm going to thread. I'm using a larger eyed needle here because we want to use as many strands as possible. I think with this piece I'm using all 6 strands because we want to make sure that the thread doesn't go through our fabric at all. So I'm putting a fairly large knot at the end because we're going to be putting quite a bit of tension on this thread, and I'm just sewing in and out about 1 centimeter apart each time. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to make sure that we're going in and out, under and back. I'm having some trouble here. Okay. Okay, down and up. And once you get around to where you started, just pull as tight as you can. And then you want to just put your needle through, keeping it as tight as you can. Put some fingers here, holding it tight, and pull. And then do that a couple of times, go around, keep going. And then I'll take my needle out and I'll create a knot. So this isn't going anywhere, this is very tight. So nothing fancy here, I'm just knotting it so that it's not going to come back through. So there we have it, we've got our tight little bundle here. And our next step is to actually apply our felt. So it's already looking good, as we can see, but we want to add the felt to just give it a nice professional finish. So this is where I'm actually just going to be using whatever threads I have. Like, they don't necessarily have to be long enough. I just want to kind of use these threads up. So I've got this piece here. I'm going to thread my needle. And this way I can show you also how to continue if you've run out of thread. So put a nice thick knot at the end here. And to start, here, let me just get a little bit closer here. To start, I'm going to be going under the denim and coming up, pulling my thread over. I'm pulling to the right. I'm left-handed, so if it helps to go the other way, that's definitely fine too. So here I'm going through the felt, through the denim, and then back up and out of the denim, holding the thread behind my needle. So I've created this little loop here, and we're just going to do that exact same thing again. So holding this loop here behind, through the felt, through the denim, and back up out of the denim, creating a loop. And we're just going to do this all the way around. So through the felt, through the denim, back up, holding the loop. You want to make sure you're holding this taut. It doesn't need to be crazy tight. You just want to make sure that it's going to be holding your piece in place tightly. Just creating my loops about 1 centimeter apart again. This doesn't have to be perfect. You can go further apart if you want. I find for bigger hoops, it's okay to go a little bit further apart with your stitches, whereas with smaller hoops, because the circumference is a lot tighter, you're going to want to have your stitches closer together. This is one of those stitches where I had to practice it quite a bit and I screwed up a lot, and I thought that it was so difficult, and now it's just so easy. And I really don't have any problems doing this at all. And I think you'll find that too. I find that with a lot of embroidery stitches. I think it's so hard, and then once I've done enough practicing, I find it a lot easier. So I'm getting towards the end of my thread here, and as you can see, I haven't gone all the way around at all, but that's okay because I'm just going to grab another thread. I actually think it looks pretty good with different colors of thread. So what I'm going to do to end this stitch is I'm actually just going to go in and back out and do a couple of loops here. Okay, and then I'm going to come back out the bottom and knot a couple of times as close to the denim as we can get. Give it a little snip. Make sure that this is going to be laying flat. Sometimes it gets kind of crinkly. I don't like that. So I'm just going to grab another piece of thread. So here I'm going to go under, and I'm going to come back out where our last stitch ended. And just continue just as I started, going around the hoop. Okay, so we're almost at the end here. A couple of more stitches, and I'll show you how I finish the back of my hoops. Okay, so I'm ending at my first stitch here. I'm actually going to redo that first stitch again, and like when we're running out of thread, I'm just going to go in and out a couple of times to create a tight bundle. We don't want this coming loose at all. Just a couple of times in and out. Create a knot, double it, triple it, holding it as close to the felt as you can get it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in behind that little knot, under my felt, and I'm going to pull it out here. So you can see it's just kind of going in and then coming back out, and I'm going to pull it through, cut my thread at the base of the felt here. So here we have our finished piece. So now what we can do actually is take this out, and you can see it's not going anywhere. This is so nice and tight. So now we can center our hoop how we want it. I also like to push my hoop back a little further than the edge. I find this makes it easier when you're hanging the piece. Tighten, and voila, we're done. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's super helpful. And you can check out my other videos where I show you how to do different stitches and different techniques that I find helpful in my work.